I previously interviewed Mary Kelder for this same website, and she argued in favor of a humanitarian intervention. She said the humanitarian toll is too high, and the international community has to step in, has to use Chapter 7 of the Charter to go in without the consent of the Assad regime. What would be your response to her proposition?
Well, I think ultimately, if you're going to have a humanitarian intervention, and it's going to be under Chapter 7, the consent of a government, in this case President Assad, is not required. What you do need is the consent of the Security Council. What has impeded action in Syria and through the United Nations, of course, is the division we've had within the Security Council and the division among the 5 permanent members. But I think, at least now in recent weeks, there is progress in terms of getting the Syrians and an understanding that they can dismantle and dispose of their chemical weapons. We have no way of knowing whether it will succeed, but I think it is important that avenue be pursued vigorously, because of course humanitarian intervention, even when it's warranted, will have unintended consequences.
There are some concerns that maybe this Russian initiative and the fact that the Assad regime agreed to disarm are just a way of buying time for the regime, really, of winning militarily with conventional weapons and disposing of the chemical ones in 1 year's time.
That might be the case. You never know in these matters. But what I would say, it's a promising development. It has to be pursued. We have to ensure that it's not a stalling tactic, and to make sure it works. If in a year's time it doesn't work, then you cross that bridge. You can never know beforehand how these things are going to turn out. But I think it's promising, and it's important that the United States and Russia and France and Great Britain and China are on the same page. Because if we're going to have action in the future through the United Nations, the 5 permanent members have to have a united view on these issues. And certainly if we're going to rebuild the consensus which is required for Security Council action, this is a step in the right direction.